Okay, so it's almost spring, and what do we think of in the spring? Baby animals and flowers. So today we're going to paint some flowers. Start off with your background with a deep violet and white, blending it on your canvas. Keep adding the paint and blending until your background looks the way you would like it to look. Paint the entire page, or canvas. Mine happens to be a 12 by 12 canvas paper. Once your background has dried, you're going to paint in a table. I'm using burnt sienna. I went 4 inches up from the bottom, which is 1/3 of the way from the bottom of my canvas. So depending on the size of your canvas, go 1/3 of the way up. At the very bottom, paint a stripe across for the edge of the table with a darker color. So I sketched in with chalk a vase shape, just like a cylindrical shape, and I'm painting it in with straight phthalo blue. I'm doing that so that it is a background shadow. And I'm going to let that dry. As you can see in the photo in the top left, we're going to paint vertical like tubes. We want this to kind of look like sticks. I chose it to be blue, and we're going to leave tiny little gaps in between for the shadow. That's why we painted the base just plain phthalo blue. Then we're going to go in and add some white highlights. Now I did lighten this blue with some titanium white, but I'll go back in and add more. That top part there is the inside of the vase. I painted that a solid phthalo blue, not diluted, just pure phthalo. Now we're adding bands. Something has to be holding our sticks together, or our tubes. So I chose to put 2 white bands on it. You could do 1, you could do 3, you could do however many you want. You could even make it a bow if you're good at painting bows. But something needs to be holding those sticks together. adding a little shadow on the table in front of the vase, adding shadow to the right side of my tube since I put my highlights on the left. Now I'm getting ready for stems and leaves. I have green, sap green, cad yellow, red, blue, whatever colors I have placed out on my palette, even my violet. And I'm using a small, maybe 1/4 inch angle brush, and I'm just drawing the stems, letting my colors mix themselves on the canvas, you know, to mix in the highlights and shadows so I don't have to go back and redo it. And then now I'm placing leaves on these stems. Some of the stems will get covered up because I put them a little too close together, or maybe only one side gets leaves on it. But I'm using that same angle brush, and I'm just like touching it to the paper and pressing down and pulling towards the like branch or vein of the stem to give it that leaf shape. You'll want to vary your sizes, vary your colors, mix them up, keep plenty of paint on your brush, and just fill it in. This is going to be behind your flowers and your background of the flowers. A lot of it will get covered up, but you won't have any holes. So just fill it in, overlap some over the top of the vase so they go into the front, put bigger leaves. You can even do different shaped leaves if you're good at painting leaves. This just happened to be an easy way for me to do it, and just by adding the color I felt like I was getting enough variation. Time for the flowers. On this one, because yellow is so translucent, I'm having to put down a layer in a mixture of yellow and white, and then I'll have to come back after it dries and paint over top of it yellow again. As you can see by the image in the left-hand corner, this is the look that I'm eventually gonna have. And we're going to vary the sizes and shapes of our flowers, and I am far from a flower expert, but they're fun to paint. Now these are daisy-like flowers. I put burnt sienna, dabbed it in a circle on for the pollen center, and then I'm just pulling my petals into it. These are easy to mess up, so don't fuss with them too much. This here is the Phthlo Blue white mixture, and I'm just kind of like doing a downward swooped U and an upward swooped U, making them into a ball. Now I'm trying to add some white to it to like give petal the edges, but again, I need to wait for it to dry and come back and do it again. These are a mixture of Cad Red and Cad Yellow to make kind of an orange, and again, very translucent. So I have to put them in place and wait and come back and do a second coat after they dry to give it some color, and then streak some straight yellow through it to give it highlights. Okay, rosebuds. I have Cad Red and white on my brush. I'm using my angle brush, but you could also do this with a flat. I'm doing a downward shaped U, then putting my brush right to the edge of that U and doing an upward shaped U. And it makes a very simple, pretty little rosebuds. And vary your direction because they're not all facing you. All the flowers aren't coming the same direction, so I mean, if you have to, turn your canvas. This one I had to do that second part of the petal a few times to get it, but I finally got it. I just didn't have enough paint on my brush, so make sure you have plenty of paint on your brush. More daisy-like flowers, but using that orangish color that I mixed with the Cad Red and Cad Yellow for the pollen center, and using a pale white-yellow mixture for the petals. Start at 6 o'clock, or 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 9 o'clock, and then fill in around it, and it's supposed to help make it shape better. Putting that second coat on my orange flowers. Putting the yellow on my tulip-shaped flowers. Brighten them right up. Touching up those pollen centers, adding a little yellow to them, just a little dabs. Those I added like a little red. Adding the yellow streaks into those orange to give it highlights. Tapping in some filler flowers with my Phthlo Blue white mixture, but lightened quite a bit, just to fill in empty space and add some fluff to the bouquet or arrangement. I'm just using a stiff bristle brush and just tapping it on. Adding more shadow to the table and colors from the vase, from the wall, just putting streaks in. The edge of my table in the front where I put the darker stripe, I'm taking a very thin liner brush and just dashing across, not a solid line, to give it like the edge. Putting some fallen leaves on the table, some fallen petals. I just added a couple stems to some flowers that looked like they needed it. There's the petals. More highlights on the vase, but be careful when you do this or you'll have to do what I'm doing there and go back in and touch up your shadow areas. Adding a little more yellow to those flowers. Don't fuss with these kind too much because they can start off looking pretty nice, and the more you fuss with them, they could end up looking pretty yucky. So be careful with those. At least that's what I find for myself, is they'll look okay and I think I can make them look better, and of course, not being the flower expert, I tend to do something and wish that I hadn't. Tapping in a little more white on my filler flowers, just to make them pop and give them some depth. With a smaller, stiff, bristled brush, I'm tapping in some little round flower balls, like little buds. Okay, this is the end result. Some close-up shots of the flowers in the vase for you so you can see. And I would like to thank you for watching and invite you to like and subscribe and share with your friends. And enjoy painting some spring flowers.